Hey there, movie fans. It's time for a brand new episode of FYC. We are just days, days away from the Academy Awards on March 10th. Just like, oh my gosh, you can just feel the energy in the air, especially on FYC with the amazing Perry Nemiroff and the mighty Jeff Snyder. We are going to look at the screenplays nominated for Academy Awards, all 10 of them original and adapted. Then next week, we do our final predictions before the Academy Awards. And then we have one more show after that to see how we did. So let's kick it off. We're going to start with original screenplay. What is number one on your list, Perry Nemiroff?
So my number one, clearly I'm torn between two things, but I'm going to commit right now, right on this show. I'm going to go number one, Anatomy of a Fall. I've been saying this all along in other categories to varying degrees, but I think that the Oscar nominations it did receive is very, very significant. And I think it's a sure sign that a lot of the Academy is behind this movie. I also think in recent weeks, it's used the spotlight well. It seems to be on the top of everybody's mind. So I feel like it's not going to go home empty-handed. And I think this is its only shot. So I'm going to give it my number one spot.
I agree with that number one spot. And Perry, you're right. The 5 Academy Awards nominated for Anatomy of a Fall and Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actress for Sandra Hüller, and Best Editing. I mean, may not seem like it, but editing is a really, really, really strong support for those other 4 nominations. That's my number one as well, obviously. Jeff, what about you? Oh, wait. No, wait, hang on. Let's play the game correctly.
Oh,
Jeff, why is Anatomy of a Fall not winning the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay?
Because it wasn't wholly satisfying.
Well, what?
I thought it was a good movie, but not a great movie. And I think a lot of that lies in the ambiguity where I don't know that there necessarily needs to be any ambiguity.
I just want to clarify, Jeff, is that you playing the game or is that your real opinion? Because I can't tell.
He really thinks that. He's said that before.
I guess we'll never know.
Oh, stop that nonsense.
All right, Jeff. Well, you are playing the game correctly, whether or not that's actually your opinion or you're playing the game. But Jeff, what is next on your list and why is that winning Best Original Screenplay?
Why is Anatomy of a Fall winning Original Screenplay? Because
no. What's next on your list? We already talked. So what's the next movie that you think actually will win Best Screenplay?
I got interrupted here by A24. The Holdovers, and I think that The Holdovers is going to ultimately squeak out the win here. Right? I think that that movie it just hits you in the chest, whereas Anatomy of a Fall is more of a thinker, and I will always take the movie that has more emotion behind it.
Okay. All right. Look, I have loved Holdovers since I saw it back in September at Telluride. The more I've seen the film, the more I love it, especially like getting through the holidays. It's like obviously a very much timely for the holidays, and it will be for the end of time. I love this movie. Perry, why is it great film, amazing screenplay, but it's not going to win?
Well, I'm being realistic with this assessment here. So, on the one hand, I was torn between 2 movies. It was Anatomy of a Fall and it's also The Holdovers. So I do think The Holdovers does have a good chance of winning. Why I think it's not going to win is why I teed up Anatomy of a Fall so high. We are going to see that movie take at least 1 Academy Award, possibly 2. So I think we're going to see a lot of people redirect their love for the movie there and then choose something else here. And then also, if I kind of lean into Jeff's argument, I do wonder if it's going to have the opposite effect where, it's not really light. There's some heavy subject matter, but like the more wholesome, sweet movie might be, I guess, devalued in this particular race compared to the more intricately plotted, like head-spinning narrative. And especially because, respect to your opinion, Jeff, but a lot of people out there are just like endlessly fascinated by this movie. And I do think the ambiguity in the ending is going to help it in the Academy race because people can't stop talking about it.
Here's what I think, and this is what I've thought all along. Critics don't like emotion, right? They're afraid of feeling. Yes, they are. This is why I've, predicted things the way that I have. And they like to like Anatomy of a Fall is good for social media because you can talk about it and debate it, right? Holdovers isn't like that. And I think that the Academy, there's more conversation right now about Anatomy of a Fall, but I think Academy voters are going to go for Holdovers.
Well, look, that could happen. I mean, I do think there's something to be said about Academy voters going for more of a crowd pleaser than like a big
Green Book when all the critics are like, nah.
Well, look, I do think I'm with Perry on this one too, that original screenplay is between these two films, The Holdovers and Anatomy of a Fall. I think Anatomy of a Fall has the edge for a couple of reasons. For one thing, Justine Triet's been winning like a ton of awards since Anatomy of a Fall won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival last May. She's been on a roll ever since, going on, 8 months now with all of this. But also the Academy, with the 9,500 voting members of the Academy, 25% of those voters live outside the United States. So now more than ever, there is a very strong contingent of the Academy voting block that is made up of international voters. And here's an international film 100%. That is obviously beloved, but you never know. Holdovers is also beloved.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that in general, writer-directors fare better in this category or pure writers? You know what I mean? Justine Triet gets a ton of press because she directed the film as well. But Hemmingson, you kind of don't know his name, but does that actually go further in an Oscar race because people want to give it to a pure writer?
I think it's a writer director. And I think you kind of just spelled out why. And we talk about it all the time, the value of campaigning. A writer director has more opportunity to campaign. There's a higher likelihood that voters out there, know their face, know who they are. And also, I can't even begin to tell you how many conversations I've had with people who think that Alexander Payne wrote The Holdovers, which is just
that's true.
It's crushing to me. Why?
Perry, it's a common mistake to make. It's an easy mistake to make because he has written so much of what he's directed in the past. In fact, I remember when I wrote, when I posted a social media reaction to The Holdovers back at Telluride, the publicist for the film was right there, and she stopped me on the street. She said, "Hey, thanks for the positive little review there, but Alexander Payne didn't write The Holdovers." And I was like, "Oh shit, that's right. Oh, I'm so sorry." So ever since then, I've been he didn't write it, But I agree again with Perry about the writer-director being a stronger in this category, which is why my next film after Holdovers is Past Lives.
Real quickly on Anatomy of a Fall, I have heard people call it a glorified Law and Order episode.
Who said that?
Name names.
I don't agree with that. I mean, it's come on.
All right, Past Lives.
It's like calling Star Wars a glorified Star Trek episode. Absolutely not in the same league here. Okay. Past Lives, number 3 is only on my list, but I want to hear from Perry Nemiroff why Past Lives will win Best Original Screenplay.
Past Lives is also number 3 on my list as well. And, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that it truly does win. I think the race is mighty close between Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers, but I do think Past Lives is right behind. And I'll point to a recent event as my reasoning for why it might win. Past Lives was front and center, had a significant amount of the spotlight at the Independent Spirit Awards. And I know that's like a small piece of the whole here, but that kind of passion and enthusiasm, I think, is so wholeheartedly genuine that it really did shine a pretty strong light on how passionate the Past Lives fan base is. And, clearly the movie has been doing pretty well on the award season circuit. So it could be a scenario where someone can't choose between Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers. They split the votes and then everything winds up closer than we think it'll be.
Well, to that point, Perry, as far as Past Lives doing really well at the Spirit Awards. It won Best Picture and Best Director, but not Best Screenplay. Best Screenplay went to Cord Jefferson for American Fiction, but the Spirit Awards don't divide screenplay between adapted and original, so that's why Past Lives, absolutely still totally has a chance to win in Best Original Screenplay. The other thing is that Past Lives debuted at the Sundance Film Festival 13 months ago, and the people are still talking about it. Like it's been part of the conversation for 13 straight months, and it just kept building. The problem is that it's only nominated for one other Oscar. Of course, that other Oscar is the big one, Best Picture. So, Jeff, why is Past Lives not winning Best Original Screenplay?
Well, I think Past Lives is the best movie here, for the record. But on a screenplay level, I think that it leaves a lot open so that the viewer can bring a part of themselves to the movie. Like, I don't know that it's all on the page, and a lot of it is in the direction and the performances. So, like, as a screenplay, I can't say it's as sharp or as tight as The Holdovers or Anatomy of a Fall, even though I think it ultimately leads to a better movie.
Well, what about Maestro? Why is Maestro going to win Best Original Screenplay?
Good luck with this one.
Because the Academy will feel that they have to throw Bradley a bone.
Oh.
I
don't like that reasoning.
And Josh Singer's a past winner, so they really respect his work. And yeah.
All right, Jeff. Yeah. The easy question: why is Maestro not winning?
For the record, this is coming from someone who really liked Maestro, like a lot. I think it's a great movie, and it does not deserve any of the disrespect it's been getting. But of course, it's an Oscar nominee, so it's been respected, in a sense. But it is not winning because Maestro came out and then fell off a cliff. It completely had its Oscar-winning chances and all of its award season glory kind of sucked away by that release. It got a mixed reception. It seems like nobody watched it. People are angry at Bradley Cooper for trying to make a good movie. There is so much working against Maestro, and it makes me so sad.
I loved Maestro the moment I saw it at the New York Film Festival. And, when I watched it again during the holidays after it dropped on Netflix, I really was, without being in the room at the theater at the Lincoln Center, which was definitely a hell of a place to see this movie. I was really wow, this movie is excellent. I love Maestro. I really once you realize, what Josh Singer and what Bradley Cooper did with the film, as far as focusing on his dual life, instead of his career accomplishments, you go, oh, okay, that's the movie they chose to tell. And I thought they did a fantastic job. But the reason I don't think it's going to win is just because, people aren't talking about it enough to win in original screenplay. And that's it. I think it's a deserving film. I love the movie. I feel bad that like Perry, you said, there's been this sort of people have been picking on the movie and picking on Bradley Cooper.
That's social media bullshit, though. I don't think there's anybody in the Academy who doesn't respect what Bradley Cooper did here. Bradley just gets a bunch of shit from people on Twitter who don't know anything.
I don't know. I mean, I can't obviously speak for Academy members, but I've heard some of that repeated in, our sector of the industry. And I'm just
our sector of the industry is a mess.
Well,
yes.
I think, we're talking about two different things, maybe ish. But I do think that sentiment is not just social media and social media alone, unfortunately.
All right, then that brings us to May, December. Perry, why is May, December winning the Academy Award for Best Original?
I feel I had to land this one after Jeff got this side of Maestro. Huh. May, December is gonna win because May, December is not nominated anywhere else, and this is the only place May, December fans have to vote for it. So maybe you'll get votes for that reason. That's the best you're getting from
it. All right, Jeff, why is May, December not winning the Academy Award for Original Screenplay?
Because there was a reception for the movie, and I heard they ran out of hot dogs. There weren't enough hot dogs.
Those hot dogs. God damn it. Those hot dogs.
Gotta have enough hot dogs.
Unbelievable. Okay, so that's original screenplay. Let's move on to adapted screenplay. Jeff Snyder, what's at the top of your list to win Best Adapted Screenplay?
I guarantee it's not what either of you have. I want to hear yours because I'm going to throw you a curveball.
All right. I'm going to throw out the movie that I think is going to win Best Adapted Screenplay at the Academy Awards, and that is American Fiction. American Fiction is like, this is where it is going to win. I mean, it's worthy of Best Picture, but, you know, unfortunately, Cord Jefferson wasn't nominated for Best Director, and that stopped like Coda or Green Book or Argo from winning, but it's still, you know, the odds are not great. But it is so razor sharp. It is so relevant, so timely, so funny, so heartwarming, so entertaining. It's a perfect movie and a perfect screenplay. It deserves to win. I think it's going to win. Yeah, it did win Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Actor, actually, at the Spirit Awards. But I think that's the one to beat. Jeff, you are not picking. What?
Barry?
Well, I'm thinking it's very close between three films. That means I think Jeff is choosing one of the other two. I'm sticking within the three more likely winners here, and I am not going to go with American Fiction. I am going to lean Oppenheimer.
Damn it!
Oh, did you want to say Oppenheimer? I was sure you were going to say one of the other two.
I thought for sure you were going for Barbie.
No. I mean, when we get to Barbie, I'll explain why I think it has a chance and doesn't. But I think the Oppenheimer sweep is it's too real. It's just like demolishing competition all over the place. It's got such a significant amount of support behind it. And I know some people might disagree with me, but I think that's a screenplay that makes the most of every minute of its 3-hour running time. I think it is a beautifully scripted piece, wholly immersive. And then I think everything around it just elevates what was on the page, which in turn makes the work on the page seem even stronger. Everything is working in Oppenheimer's favor.
Go ahead, Jeff. Talk, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm with Perry here. I mean, I feel like this is actually, I feel like it's like in third place among the pundits, and that the pundits have made it a competition between Barbie and American Fiction. Oppenheimer, I think, is being overlooked in this category because it's going to be taken care of elsewhere. And I think it's a stealth contender. I think I loved American Fiction, but I think that screenplay, could have maybe used even sharper teeth. I think it has some issues of its own. That's the thing. If that movie or The Holdovers were like 10% better, this would be a race.
All right, so
not quite there. And so Oppenheimer, I do think it's going to just steamroll everything.
That could happen. Look, that happened last year with the Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everyone was all in for that movie, and it won 7 Academy Awards. But where Oppenheimer is steamrolling is in Best Picture and in Best Director. Best Actor, most likely now after the SAG Award win for Cillian Murphy. I know we were talking about Paul Giamatti there, but thinking, maybe that vote's going to change, and we'll talk.
Are you switching? Are you switching sides?
Wait a minute. I'm going to wait until our final predictions next week to really talk about Best Actor.
The big reveal.
But wait a minute. I think, Best Picture, Best Director, Oppenheimer's got it in the bag. But you cannot overlook a movie like American Fiction. It has to win something. It deserves to win something. It deserves to win Best Adapted Screenplay.
If Cord Jefferson had been around a long time in like the feature world, right? And he's like Wes Anderson, he'd been nominated a bunch of times, then I could see it. But first time out, I'm not sure that he's got the juice. I might even go Barbie next in line.
Okay, well, all right then, Jeff, let's talk about Barbie. Why is it winning?
Because it was better than it had any right to be, and that starts on the page. That starts with the script and the approach and how they decide to do this, because God knows this screenplay was out there for, just like this project. A zillion writers took a chance, took a shot at this thing. They cracked it, Noah and Greta, and it has some iconic lines and iconic moments, and just the way that it treats Ken, and I mean, it's a good screenplay.
All right, Perry, why is Barbie not winning Best Adapted Screenplay?
For the record, I have Oppenheimer #1, American Fiction #2, Barbie #3. I think that those are the only 3 movies that have a chance of winning this award. And, I kind of buy into the idea that because Greta was snubbed elsewhere, there might be more people eager to see her win here, to see her get an Oscar for making the most successful movie at the box office of 2023, which, I think is a pretty big deal that should be celebrated, maybe a little more than it was. Why I don't think it's going to win is what I said the moment after I saw the movie. I don't think the screenplay is the strongest aspect of the movie. I don't want to take away from the fact that they truly did blow my mind with what they did with a movie based on Barbie. I never thought we would get anything of this quality. But still, even like sky high quality like that and exceeding my expectations with a toy adaptation, I do think that there are certain weak spots in the narrative that they crafted. And without those weak spots, maybe I would think it was a bigger contender against Oppenheimer and American Fiction. But that's why it's #3 on my list right now.
So you both bring up points that I agree with. Jeff, Barbie is definitely better than I think it had any right to be. I think what a lot of people forget, I certainly don't forget this because I remember being privy to a lot of these conversations, is that leading up until July 21st, when both Barbie and Oppenheimer opened, I remember just so many people, like we would be at screenings of other films and, we see the same people at each and every screening. Sometimes people we don't want to see, but that's a whole other story. But we see the same people at these screenings and you just get into conversations. And I remember having a lot of conversations with people going like, Barbie, what do you think? And people were like, I don't know. Could go either way. It could be great or it could be a total disaster. That was the sentiment going into July 21st. Fortunately, it played out very well for everyone involved when the movie made $1.5 billion worldwide. So there are a lot of people, to Perry's point, and I said this about last week about the SAG Awards, and I was wrong when I said that maybe there might be so much support behind Barbie that they give Barbie the Best Acting Ensemble Award. That didn't happen. So do I think that sentiment is also going to translate over to the adapted screenplay category and people who were incensed that Greta Gerwig wasn't nominated for Best Director and Margot Robbie was not nominated for Best Actress? Do I think that support will translate into a win for Best Adapted Screenplay? It might. I'm not ruling that out. But my ranking for these top 3 is still, my ranking is still American Fiction, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. I'm not discounting Barbie. Does it have a chance? Sure, it has a chance. But for as many people who say they like Barbie or love Barbie, there are as many people who are digging their heels in and saying that they don't like Barbie, that it is overrated. And even the New York Times had a headline that said, if Barbie is a bad movie, there I said it. So I don't think the support for Barbie is unanimous, is what I'm saying. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just wonder if voters will penalize Barbie because they don't think it's an adapted screenplay.
It's an adapted screenplay. This argument drives me nuts. It's an adaptation of an existing IP. That IP is a toy. It is an adaptation of the toy.
Right, but it's not.
I don't understand this. An adapted screenplay does not specifically mean. It just doesn't mean specifically adapted from writing. It's a toy instead.
Right. It's a toy. Exactly. It's a toy.
That made me sweat more than anything else we spoke about today.
Why I love doing FYC with you guys. All right. Well, I think that this is, watching the Oscars is going to be really interesting. Thank God nothing is going on at South by Southwest during the Oscars.
Yeah, really?
All right. Let's talk about Poor Things, Perry. Why is it winning?
Now that's a good adaptation.
Yeah.
I think. Wait, you'd ask me why it is winning?
Yes.
Because it's good. Because it's really good. That's pretty much the only thing I could use to back up an argument that it could win, is that like it's just genuinely a very good adaptation. It's not an easy story to bring from script to screen in terms of, you know, there's some big wild things that happen in the movie, and sometimes it's easier to, you know, use your imagination to fill in certain gaps on the page, whereas you have to be able to adapt everything to be seen as intended before your eyes. And I think that's a challenge. And they also made a couple of changes to the source material that I thought were pretty effective. So I love the movie. It's my second favorite movie of the year. I'd like to see it win, but yeah, right, I'll leave the other half of the argument to Jeff.
Why is Poor Things not winning, Jeff?
Because it's just a bunch of furious jumping. I mean, I don't know. It's not going to win because it's up against just like really stiff competition. It's a very visual movie. I mean, she's still like, for half the movie, she's still like figuring out language. So like,
for half the movie, she's naked.
That too. But yeah, half the movie she can barely speak English. So while that's clever screenwriting, like how they mature her, I don't think it's like the great like, you know, Word document.
Well, I know we talked about this on one of the previous FYCs. Well, first of all, look, I mean, I love Poor Things. And the argument that I made as far as Maestro being like, I love the film, but unfortunately it's like the same argument applies here, where the conversation about Poor Things is not about its screenplay. It's not saying not enough people are saying this is the best screenplay of the year, it's going to win. That's why it's not going to win. But there is a chance that Poor Things might not win anything. I mean, I think the strongest chance it actually has to win is like makeup or Best Actress for Emma Stone. But it's nominated for 11 Academy Awards. It's not going to win like a lot.
Costume or production design, I think, costume and production.
You think that Poor Things production design over Barbie? Because I think Barbie's production design is amazing.
I thought Barbie was going to run away with it, but given how the conversation with Barbie has changed a little in recent weeks and months, I do think Poor Things has a better chance than I initially thought it did there.
There you go. All right, that brings us to the zone of interest. Jeff's number one movie of 2023, a movie that he has seen 10 times. 10 times, ladies and gentlemen. He sleeps with the DVD under his pillow, is how much Jeff Snyder loves The Zone of Interest. Right, Jeff?
The Zone of Interest will win this award because the script is 10 pages long and everyone could read it.
Oh!
I mean, it's just, what is it? Family Plays in Garden. This is 10 minutes of screen time.
Family Plays in Garden.
There's some ash.
Right.
Oh, come on, this is not a screenplay movie.
That's not what you're supposed to be saying.
It's Veritas. I mean, the way that it captured the Holocaust, like no one's ever seen before.
That's the truth. I've seen a lot of movies about the Holocaust and documentaries and shorts, and I've never seen anything.
Yeah, there's a reason you haven't seen this.
Look, I love Zone of Interest. Perry, why is it not winning?
The greatest.
I mean, it's one of the biggest reasons why it's not winning is because of all the competition it's against. I just don't think it has any chance of competing with really any of the four titles that we've just mentioned. But, you know, also I keep thinking that of all of its nominations, this was probably one of the most surprising to me. Like I kept coming up with narratives where like, oh, like it could get into Best Director, and then it did, but then it also got Screenplay, whereas I thought something else was going to bump it out of this category for sure. But, you know, now it's here and that's great. It's a great movie. I'm happy to see it honored, but this is one of those situations where the honoring stops at the nomination. It's got absolutely no chance to go on to win this.
Right. Nomination is the win.
The nomination is the win here because Zone of Interest, I think, is going to win Best International Feature. I think that is where the momentum behind the Zone of Interest is, and that's where it's going to stay. So there you go. Our number one choices for original screenplay, Anatomy of a Fall, whereas adapted screenplay sounds like it's split between American Fiction and Oppenheimer. Yep. But I am actually in the minority on American Fiction, so you guys have the majority with Oppenheimer. But I mean, you know what? You're possibly right. Barbie is possibly right. I think American Fiction has the edge here because it's got to get something because it is such a great film. I think it's a perfect movie. I think it's a movie that's going to be analyzed, studied because of the way it looks at the racial stereotyping. And it's still yet very entertaining and very funny and very heartwarming. I mean, I just thought Cord Jefferson just wrote a brilliant screenplay. But regardless, there you go. Everyone watching FYC. We have like 2 episodes to go. So while you can, make sure you scroll down and subscribe to Perry Nemiroff's YouTube channel. While you can, make sure you subscribe to Jeff's newsletter, theinsnyder.com, not insider, theinsnyder.com. Jeff was born to have a website called theinsnyder.com. His parents said, why don't we name him theinsnyder.com so when they create the internet, he'll already have a domain name. He is also. I wish
I could take credit for the name. I did, someone else came up with it.
Well, it fits. It's also his Twitter handle. So there you go. You can also catch him every week with my great friend Johnny Roca on the Hot Mic. Make sure you share FYC on all your social media platforms so more people can discover the greatness of Mance, Nemiroff, and theinsnyder.com. Join us next time for our second to the last episode of FYC this Oscar season, where we go big predicting the winners at the Academy Awards, which will happen right after this next episode is posted. Join us next time. And until then, FY, see you later.